Geldiğiniz için çok teşekkür ederiz. URSA Terra Mineral Yün lansmanı çerçevesinde URSA Isı Yalıtım tarafından Çevre Dostu Yeşil Binalar ÇEDBİK Derneği ile işbirliği içinde hazırlanan seminerimize ilk olarak konuşmacı olarak İspanya Green Building Council Yeşil Binalar Derneği Başkan Yardımcısı ve URSA Isı Yalıtım Genel Müdürü Sayın Manuel Geremias Carnero'yu ilk konuşmacı olarak sahneye davet ediyorum.
Değerli misafirlerimiz, sevgili iş ortaklarımız, kıymetli meslektaşlarımız, öncelikle davetimize katıldığınız ve seminere gösterdiğiniz ilgi için hepinize çok teşekkür ederim. İsmim Manuel Geremias Carnero. Uluslararası bir şirket olan URSA Isı Yalıtım Türkiye Operasyonları Genel Müdürüyüm. Ayrıca Green Building Council İspanya'da az başkanlık görevini sürdürmekteyim. Bugün sizlerle yeni ürünümüz URSA Terra'nın lansmanı çerçevesinde düzenlediğimiz seminer dizisi vesilesiyle bir aradayız. Çok kısa bir giriş konuşman olacak. Ardından Felipe Pik Bey ve ekibi Sürdürülebilir mimari hakkında bize değerli bilgiler verecekler. Türkçem henüz sınırlı. Konuşmamın bundan sonraki bölümünü İngilizce yapacağım. Umarım tercümem arkadaşım bana yardımcı olacak. Anlayışınız için teşekkürler. So I will continue in English after this more difficult introduction for me. In Turkish, which I hope I could speak better. I'm working on it, but it's going to take me a while until I can feel comfortable enough to do a presentation all the way in Turkish. First of all, again in English now, thank you, all of you, for being here. It's a very special occasion for us to be able to address an audience like you, with the occasion to present very proudly a new product of us, and also with the occasion, very proudly, to speak about sustainable building. It is in the heart of our company to help the building chain to build more sustainably. And as nowadays there are many people talking about sustainability, but not so often we are told what sustainability is about. So let me remind you, most of you know, what are the three pillars of sustainability. Sustainability takes into consideration the economy, the society, and the environment. There cannot be human development without taking those three pillars into consideration. We cannot only look at the economy and economic progress at the expense of destroying nature, or we cannot look at caring about nature if we don't care about people. So the three components need to be integrated. We believe that this philosophy can also be transported, must be transported into the buildings. That's why today we have two speakers after myself who are going to talk about all these aspects. Let me just share with you a few facts from our side from URSA side about sustainability, and then about, just very briefly, about what our products can do for that. Are we sure this is functioning? Okay, thank you. Thank you. In today's world, we are facing many different challenges. As you know, we have an ongoing climate challenge. Climate is changing everywhere. We know that this summer, for example, in the North Pole, for the first time since history has been recorded, boats have been able to cross the formerly frozen areas. And this poses a big threat to some species of animals. For example, our logo, the polar bear. Polar bears are suffering and are endangered because global warming has been causing the polar waters to defreeze, to unfrost during the summer, and they have to swim. They have to swim great distances. So there is a climate challenge. We have also an economic challenge. We have a big crisis in many countries. Fortunately, this is not the case in Turkey, in this beloved country of ours. We also have an energy crisis ongoing, and there is a very difficult solution to that one, because we are using non-renewable energy resources which are very rapidly being depleted. This is causing the energy prices to go up. And finally, we have a competitiveness crisis in the world. All in all, energy plays a very important role there, because human development has been based in the last 200 years on burning fossil fuels, since James Watt discovered the vapor machine, the steam machine. Until these days, human development has meant burning more and more fossil fuel. The consequence has been climate change, and the consequence is now depleting energy resources. Let me give you some data. Today, Turkey imports more than 70% of the energy that it consumes. Turkey is very energy dependent. Imagine if the countries around Turkey, which are feeding Turkey with energy, for some sort of crisis, decide at some point in time to cut the pipes. The rapid economic development that Turkey is experimenting would be suddenly stopped. Turkey, today, is the 7th country in Europe in terms of energy consumption. And by current trends, by 2020, Turkey would be consuming 160% of the energy that is 160% more of the energy it is consuming today. What does all this mean? Let me bring it back to the context of the buildings. We know that we have very difficult challenges. We have a world which is becoming more and more difficult, an economy that is becoming more and more difficult, and what can we, as members of the building industry, what can be our contribution? You, as architects, you, as real estate developers, we, as product manufacturers, what can we do? Well, let's look at the building context. In Europe, currently, 40% of the energy demand goes to buildings, whereas only a smaller percentage, 32% goes to transport and 28% goes to industry. Therefore, buildings are the major source of energy consumption. But inside this 40%, what is many times shocking to many people is to realize that 60% of that energy is dedicated to heat and cool the inside of buildings. If you do the math, 60% of 40% is 25% of the total energy consumption in Europe, which is a huge amount of energy, is used to heat and cool buildings. These numbers, when we come to Turkey, are a bit different. Instead of 40%, it's only 30%, and it's 42% which is used by industry. This is good news. And the good news is that in this country, we are still on time to stop or to moderate energy consumption in buildings. This country is building at a very rapid pace, and it will continue to build very rapidly in the next decade. Therefore, it is very important that very soon we put the measures into place which will limit the energy consumption in buildings. I know the government, the Turkish government, is aware of that, and they are implementing, and there are many things that are on the way, but more needs to be done. There are many ways of improving energy consumption in buildings. One can think about better design. This is a prerequisite. One can think about more efficient systems. This is very important. But let me underline the very big importance of a well-insulated building. Insulation is a prerequisite. First, when we want to make better the energy performance of a building, what we need to make sure is that the energy waste is reduced to the minimum. This would be equivalent when it's cold in the winter. It's good to drink some soup. It's very good to warm you up. This would be equivalent to burning more fuel, but the most intelligent thing is to put a jacket on, right? So that would be exactly the same thing with insulation. Besides, once you put it, the investment is done and stays there for the whole life of the building, no needs of replacement, etc. So we really advocate for a strong use of insulation in buildings. And this addresses two pillars of sustainability in buildings. This addresses the environmental pillar, because less energy is consumed, less CO2 emissions. This addresses the economic pillar, because less money is needed for the families, for the Turkish families every month to heat their homes. They can use this money somewhere else, investing in new business, or going to the restaurant and making a more dynamic local economy. On the aggregated figures, Turkey will be better off because it will be paying less money to the countries where the energy is coming from, and it can invest this money in developing it in its own infrastructures. So it's clear from the economic and from the environmental point of view. What about the social point of view? What are the benefits? What are we talking about when we talk about sustainable building or the contribution of insulation to the social pillar of sustainability? And here I would like to speak about the importance of sound and the big disturbance that sound and noise are making for people, for our citizens in our cities. Consistently, research shows that the biggest cause of discomfort with our citizens in their homes is noise. And noise is creating many different physical sufferings in people, which can be remedied with good levels of insulation inside of the buildings. This is the social pillar as when brought to sustainability. Of course, there are other things that could be mentioned, but I would like to stress on this one, because today what brings us here and what is sponsoring this event is URSA Terra, a new product that we are bringing to the Turkish market that combines an extraordinary thermal insulation with an extraordinary efficiency in terms of sound insulation. It addresses, as we believe, all the pillars of sustainability because it allows for more energy-efficient buildings, saving energy, preventing CO2 emissions to the atmosphere, and it also prevents undesired noises to go from the outside to the inside of the buildings, therefore providing for better and more comfortable indoor air environments. I don't want to take much more time about URSA Terra, before I give the turn to the next speaker. Let me just mention that we are very confident that we are on the good path. Turkey is on the good path. Turkey is progressing very rapidly. We are firmly committed to further progress together with Turkey, and we want to be a part of the sustainable building chain in this country. This is our firm commitment, and this is why we are sponsoring this event tonight. Thank you very much again for your presence, and I hope you enjoy the next speakers. Thank you.
İspanya Yeşil Binalar Derneği Başkan Yardımcısı ve URSA Yalıtım Genel Müdürü Manuel Geremias Carnero'yu dinledik. Şimdi ÇEDBİK, Çevre Dostu Yeşil Binalar Derneği Başkanı Sayın Haluk Sur'u konuşma için sahneye davet ediyorum.